Hello and welcome to this video, the continuation of my series on Romeo and Juliet, and today I'm going to analyse Act 2, Scene 1 from the play. Well, Act 2 actually starts off with another prologue, and as with the prologue that we saw at the beginning of the play, this prologue is again a Shakespearean sonnet of iambic pentameter, 3 verses with a rhyming couplet at the end, and the ABAB, CD, EF, GG rhyme scheme. So as we found at the very start of the play, here's a poem written in the form of a love poem. More on that in my video on the prologue. But it contains lots of language associated with death, such as deathbed, die, groaned. Those are perhaps the most obvious. Now, language of death also has a double meaning associated with sex. I'm going to talk about that more when I get to my analysis of Act 5, Scene 2. But this prologue once again mixes form with the use of the sonnet form and language with the language of death to foreshadow how Romeo and Juliet's love for each other will ultimately bring about their deaths. So the form of the famous love poem, the sonnet, is used to symbolize the love they have. The language to do with death is to symbolize how they're going to end up dying. And by using the form of a love poem, by filling it with the language of death, it shows how they will end up dying because of their love for each other. Now in this scene we see a return of the bawdy sexual humour that we've seen almost all the way through the play, but not in Act 1, Scene 5. So in Act 1, Scene 5, Romeo and Juliet were talking to each other in very religious and sacred terms. But in this scene, Mercutio leads the way with his remarks about Romeo sitting under a medlar tree, which you can see an artist's picture of on the screen. But the medlar has often been a tree that is associated with sex because the fruit is suggested to look like a woman's genitalia. Now, Shakespeare then, when talking, or Mercutio, when talking about sitting under a medlar tree, is talking about Romeo sitting under a woman's genitals. And Shakespeare was not the first writer who actually used the medlar tree as a symbol of sexual imagery. Now there's quite a clever bit of juxtaposition going on. The screen that you can see now is a sort of explanation of what juxtaposition is, which is where we put two things next to each other that contrast each other so that you can see the difference. So this guy doesn't look tall unless you put him next to a really short person. And what we've got is a lot of bawdy language which has been in the play up until this point. Sexual banter from Samson and Gregory at the start, to Romeo's anger at Rosaline's closed lap, to the nurse's swearing by her childhood virginity. The language has been highly sexual. However, in Act 1, Scene 5, as we saw previously, the language was religious and pure. And then by following that in this scene with yet more highly sexualized dialogue, Shakespeare is using structure to show how pure and perfect the love that Romeo and Juliet have for each other actually is. It's a very clever technique, the sort of structure of the way the scenes are organized.